Right now, you have an app where you can fill in the title and the description for each recipe item, and then you just need to keep copying and pasting a bunch of code. I'm here to tell you that there's a slightly better way, but it involves a couple of programming concepts. The first among these is called a struct. Right now, we have a title and we have a description, and they're separate. What if we were to combine them into a single thing? And that's what a struct is. So what we can do is we can combine both title and description into something called a recipe. And if you want the title from the recipe, you would say recipe.title. And if you want the description, you would say recipe.description. One advantage of this is that if you want to add more properties, that's very easy, because if you want to add another property, for example, if you want to say, let someone choose whether this is a favorite recipe of theirs, you can just add it to the struct. And every time you create this recipe, that property will be right there waiting for you. Now, there's one more thing we're going to learn to make our life a little bit easier, and that's arrays. You might have seen these in Get Started with Code. When you did a for loop, you actually did 0.4. Okay, so you're repeating something many times, starting from the number 0. And arrays are a data structure that can store multiple of the same thing, starting from the index 0. So if you want to store multiple recipes, you might actually put them into a recipe struct. So you can see over here, multiple recipe structs. You're going to store them in a recipes array. Okay, so let's implement this in our code. All right, so here we are back in our code, and I'm going to go over the content view. And as you can see, we have the title and the description separately over here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you to create a new file to store our data structure. So I'm going to press new over here, Swift file. And this one, I'm going to call it recipe. And this file doesn't need the view autocomplete. We're just going to type in struct recipe, open curly brace. And down here, we are going to say, well, we need a name. We need a description. Wait, do we want a name or a title? I think we had it as title. So let's call it title. Title, description. And you know what? Let's go add in that new property, right? Is favorite. I'm going to spell it British style. Feel free to spell it like an American if you want. And for this, I'm actually going to say equals to false. All right, so that means when I create this particular property, if I don't create it by defining it, whether it's a favorite or not, it's going to be false. Later on, we'll let the user set this to be a favorite if they so choose. Okay, so this is all well and good, but I'm going to add one additional detail, which is I'm going to type a colon over here and say this is identifiable. And down here, I'm going to say var ID equals to UUID, open bracket, close bracket. Okay, so what does this do? Well, this is just kind of like slapping a name tag onto every single recipe that you create. Okay, it's like how you might have a student ID in school or a national ID in your home country. Okay, so this one just says for every recipe I create, give it a unique ID. That's what UUID stands for. Universally unique identifying something. And that will make it conform to this identifiable protocol. Okay, this will simplify our code a lot later on. So I'm just going to put this here and ask you to implement it. So let's go back to content view. And now I'm going to make some changes. I'm going to hide the sidebar. And down here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by creating a state variable of recipes. So state private var recipes, okay, equals square bracket, enter, all right, and press tab so that you're in the middle between the two square braces, type recipe, and you can see over here, this thing is an autocomplete. We're not going to use the autocomplete because it's going to force you to fill in ID and is favorite, all right, those are in italics, which means they're optional. We're going to just type it out, recipe, title, something, description, something. You know what? This reminds me a lot of the code in between the detail view parameters. So I'm just going to go down here and copy those. Okay, so I'm just going to go to, here we go, copy this, and I'm going to paste it over here. Okay, so this is my first recipe. Press comma, Let's go grab the other one over here, down here, B, recipe, paste. Okay, so now I have two recipes in my recipes array. I would like to take a moment to point out that some of these words are capital letters and some of these are lowercase. Do try to follow as closely as you can to what I type. Okay, it might not give you an error if you typed capital R recipes over here, but I would really like you to just follow along because there might be some errors that pop up later. And if someone is trying to help you with your code, following as closely as you can will really make a difference. Okay, in general, every variable is named with a lowercase letter and structs are named with capital letters at the front. Okay, so this is great. We have two recipes, and inside here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this fairly drastically. I'm going to delete away one entire navigation link. Okay, and let's delete away the space as well over here. And I'm going to say, for this list, I would like you to use my recipes. List recipes, space, recipe in. Okay, so this is a little bit like a for loop. All right, so you know in a for loop, you have a counting variable, and each time it goes through the loop, the counting variable changes. This is how you show an array of items, and every time it goes through the array, it focuses on a single item, which we call a recipe. And when it's inside the loop, it's going to use the data from that particular array item. Okay, if that doesn't make sense, let me just make a change over here to say recipe.title over here. And for this one, I'm going to change this to recipe.description. Okay, so you notice that all our data has moved up here, which is really nice. And our code just says, okay, list recipes, recipe in, all right? And this just means for every single recipe inside of recipes, we are going to have a navigation link where we put the title here and the description here. Okay, let's preview it real quick. And it seems to still work, I think. Oh, it doesn't work because over here, text still says hot chocolate ice cream. So this one, you should probably change it. Instead of hot chocolate ice cream, it should now say recipe.title. Okay, so now, all right, hot chocolate soup, tap on it, and you get hot chocolate soup followed by its description. Over here, if you do hot chocolate ice cream, you get hot chocolate ice cream followed by its description. Okay, so this is a fairly complex bunch of code. We've introduced two new programming concepts. One of them is arrays, and the other one is structs. Now that you know about this, you might want to go back to the quiz app and see how you can implement these data structures over there as well. There's one more thing I'd like to show you, which is adding more data to this with minimal effort. Okay, and to do that, I'm going to make use of everyone's favorite chatbot as of November 2022, ChatGPT. So let me show you. Right, so I'm going to copy this chunk of code over here. Okay, and I'm going to head over to Safari. All right, so at time of writing, you don't actually need an account to log in to ChatGPT, so you can actually use it without actually logging in. And ChatGPT is pretty good at writing code, but I would not recommend using ChatGPT or any large language model such as Gemini or Copilot to write all your code for you. Instead, it's really good at following instructions and being creative. So I'm going to ask it to give me a couple more recipes. So I'm going to say, I'm writing a SwiftUI app and I need some more sample code. Here is my data so far. Can you add 3 or 4 more? Paste. Okay, so just press enter and let's see what it gives us. Okay, spicy chicken curry, vegetable stir fry. Huh. All right, so that's not bad. It actually gives us, like the title and some descriptions, but maybe you want them to be all hot chocolate themed. The more ridiculous, the better. Okay, so here's a list of hot chocolate. Fiery hot chocolate pizza, hot chocolate sushi rolls and hot chocolate tacos. Fantastic, all right? So when it's done, all right, notice that it gives a full array. You can either copy the entire array or you can just copy the items that you want. So in this case, I'm going to copy maybe all the way down to the end of hot chocolate burger. Okay, and I'm going to press Command C to copy and switch over to Swift Playgrounds. One thing to note is that you should add a comma right at the end of your second one before you press return and paste the rest. Okay, in fact, it's actually decent practice to just put a comma after the final one. It's okay, right? It's okay in case you want to paste in more later. Okay, fantastic. Now I have a whole bunch of hot chocolate recipes, and you can take some time to see whether they actually make any sense. I have no idea, but I hope it didn't come up with anything awful, but it seems fine. Alright, so have fun, make a few more recipes, and in the next video, we're going to see how we can actually edit these in-app.